Hey, welcome back to the Snap. Michael Heaver, of course, alongside my co-host Patrick O'Flynn. And Patrick, first of all, sad to say, the sun has definitely deserted us today.
Yeah, but when you get to my age, Michael, you start thinking good for the garden, and it means you don't have to get the watering can and the hose pipe out for a couple of days. It's a bit sad, but I think the sun's coming back next week, so it's a little bit of a respite.
Well, it might be raining outside, guys, but we hope that the Snap brings some sunshine into your life today. Make sure you've hit subscribe and the bells. Me and Patrick go through all the big stories of the day. And first of all, Patrick, let's start off with the latest YouGov poll, because once again, it sort of busted the mainstream media narrative that somehow Dominic Cummings' appearance in front of MPs and all that sort of stuff really changed the public mood. Just look at this YouGov poll. It has a 16-point lead there for the Conservatives over Labour, who are on 30, Conservatives on 46. And also some interesting figures in terms of the Lib Dems and Greens as well, Patrick.
Yeah, this is the beginning of what I've been talking about. Would set an extra alarm bell off for Labour, would be a green surge. And this poll shows, as you say, the Tories out of sight on 46, Labour on 30, which is really sort of basement Jeremy Corbyn level support, but it shows the Greens up to 9 compared to the Lib Dems on 6. So there's 3 Green voters out there for every 2 Lib Dems, and that's very close to double figures now for the Greens. If they can get into 10s and 11s, and Labour's still, nowhere near the Tories, I do then see another chunk of the sort of left-wing graduate vote giving the Greens a whirl, and then you're suddenly into the game of Labour on 26, Greens on 14, and it's a spiral of decline. But terrible verdict on Keir Starmer's Labour Party. Hopefully the commentariat beginning to catch up with what we've been saying since before the local elections, that Keir Starmer is the leader in utter crisis.
Well, it feels to me that some in the media are sort of almost willing for the Conservatives to lose support, and they're sort of pushing stories to have that end result, and it's just shown again to have not worked whatsoever. As I said, 16-point lead there for the Tories. And I think I wouldn't say surprised me, Patrick, but I mean, I'm certainly looking at the position that Keir Starmer is in. It looks pretty perilous to me, given you've got, of course, the Batley and Spend by-election if Labour were to lose that. A lot of people saying at the very least Starmer is likely to face a leadership challenge within the Labour Party. And yet, after that disastrous set of election results, with that by-election fast approaching, there doesn't really seem to be a change in direction from Labour. There doesn't seem to be any urgency whatsoever from Keir Starmer.
No, and looking at betting markets today, they're saying the Tories have a 2 out of 3 approximately chance of winning Batley and Spen. The only kind of emergency relief for Starmer is that Andy Burnham, who's by far the most popular choice to replace him, isn't in the House of Commons at the moment and won't be for a good couple of years. So that's about the only thing that a Keir Starmer supporter could clutch onto, really. The idea that doing this life stories with Piers Morgan was going to give Keir Starmer any sort of bounce, that's just not proved to be the case. And I think more and more people are just regarding Starmer as the Brexit vote thief. He wanted to steal your vote, so why would you ever lend him your vote again? I don't personally think all the woke rows help Labour at all, particularly the ongoing stuff about BLM and footballers taking a knee. I just think it winds most people with common sense up, and they take it out on the Labour Party, even if the Labour Party isn't actually formally the institution that's doing this stuff.
Now, another story, I mean, we hear, don't we, time and time again, you've seen in the past groups of rebel Conservative MPs. Well, this time there's a rebel group opposing one of the most popular policies in the country at the moment, which is cutting foreign aid. Of course, it was reduced from 0.7% to 0.5%, which I think, again, why have you got such set figures anyway? Surely foreign aid should be done on a case-by-case basis. But we saw foreign aid spiral up to around £14 billion a year. It's still, by the way, even with the reduction, about £9.9 billion per year. And YouGov found that 66% of Brits support a cut to foreign aid. 92% of Conservative voters in favour of it. Just 3% of Tory voters oppose cutting foreign aid. And yet, Patrick, a group of rebel Tory MPs, including, it's been reported, Theresa May, opposing the cut in foreign aid and looking to force the government to reverse the cut to foreign aid, effectively increase the foreign aid budget yet again.
Yeah, and I can't help feeling that this is the old displaced Tory establishment, largely Remainers, the grandees, people sitting for very prosperous commuter belt southern seats as a rule, who've never got over the fact that Boris Johnson has put together a new coalition of Tory support, and they won't get with the programme, basically. I think in Theresa May's case, a lot of us will wonder if there's a note of personal bitterness. She tried to win an election in 2017 and nearly lost everything. Boris Johnson calls a snap election and wins a landslide, putting together, massive support from the old Red Wall with the Tory traditional heartland, and becoming the predominant political figure of the era. And this is an attempt to undermine his authority, bring him down. The fact that these grandees sit for seats like Maidenhead, some of the richest places in the country, it's almost as if they accept no responsibility for colleagues elected in places in the northeast of England, across West Yorkshire, North Lincolnshire. Well, that's the new Tory heartland. And as you say, voters everywhere, particularly Conservative voters, think that the foreign aid budget got out of hand and it was being wasted hand over fist. It's probably not the best way to encourage prosperity in the developing world either. So they seem to think they put enough of themselves together, the Remainers plus a few ministerial has-been, to potentially defeat the government by ganging up with Labour, Lib Dems and SNP. We'll see if it comes to that. I think the Tory grassroots membership will be furious about it, and perhaps a few of those so-called rebels will get cold feet before any vote.
Now, as you know, we like to bring you positive stories about Brexit Britain. And this one, Patrick, really caught my eye this morning. Absolutely phenomenal statistic that UK firms are now hiring permanent staff at the fastest rate since the 1990s. Demand for new workers soaring in May to its fastest rate since January 1998. And also, something I want to bring up is that we're hearing already some stories about the labour market tightening, around there being more vacancies and employers having to work to get people in to do the jobs. Well, it's also been reported today that starting salaries rose last month at the fastest rate since September 2018. And it's interesting to me that you see those on the, you see people in the Labour Party almost, they don't seem to be encouraging of the fact that you're seeing wage rises as a result of the labour market tightening.
Absolutely. If you're my age, Michael, you can remember vaguely the days when an annual pay increase used to be taken as read. It was just something that normally happened in most workplaces. So if we're going to get back to those days, then that's all well and good and to be welcome. Particularly, you would have thought, if you're from a party called the Labour Party, which is meant to be in the interests of working people. I was reading analysis of the BBC business correspondent Emma Simpson, and a line in her coverage of this story was that employers were going to have to start looking at the wage rates and other benefits that they offered with jobs, i.e. pay rises and better conditions too. And again, that's way overdue. And already we're seeing a lobbying for perhaps import of foreign labour restrictions to be relaxed, and let's just get in a new supply of foreign labour. Well, I think this is a golden opportunity to really crack our long-term unemployment problem and head back towards full employment in Britain. As Gordon Brown once put it, British jobs for British workers. This is a real good opportunity for that. Unemployment, a lot of the leftists predicted was going to soar and hit 10%. It barely even went above 5%. And now we have twice as many vacancies in the economy, up to 700,000 as we had a year ago. And they're starting to say that the real pinch point is not high unemployment, but there aren't enough properly trained staff for all the vacancies being created. Well, employers need to do more to train. We've got the Kickstart scheme from the Treasury encouraging them to take on young workers. Let's really make this a moment where we reset the British economy and get back to the idea of full employment and get into a virtuous circle.
Absolutely. You know, a great story to finish this episode of the Snap On. So guys, make sure you hit subscribe and the bell. Do let us know what you thought of the show. If you've got any other topics you'd like to see myself and Patrick discuss, and we will be back soon with the next episode.
Have a great weekend, folks.